How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Tap the banner or visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back. You get my point. We're going backwards. We're losing people. We're losing wealth. We're losing jobs. You get what you deserve in life. Expect better. Demand better. Speak up. Talk radio. Speak up. Let them know. It's not a question of how much further we decline and decay. It's a question of going forward. And we demand progress. We demand progress. You have a right to demand it. You pay for it. That's what your taxes are. You voted for it. Demand it. You deserve it. Let's change topics. Iran. We're going to speak to a real expert, not a talking head, journalist, Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. The partisanship on Iran is just unbelievable. It's like 80% of the Republicans believe the war is warranted and going great. 80% of the Democrats think the war is terrible and we're losing. And depending on what channel you watch, you get very different stories. This is a gentleman, Colonel Jack Jacobs. He's a retired colonel in the United States Army, Medal of Honor recipient for his actions during the Vietnam War. Listen to this. A recipient of 2 Silver Stars, 3 Bronze Star medals, and 2 Purple Hearts. Boy, you talk about an American hero. And now he serves as an analyst with integrity and without bias. Colonel, I am confused. I feel as if the president is negotiating with Iran and sending different signals, and the public is sort of caught in the middle, right? He delayed the period of time to try to work out a negotiation, but we're ramping up troops, and there's rumors of a ground assault, which is maybe a tactic to spur negotiations, maybe not. Strait of Hormuz, which I still don't understand how we weren't better prepared for this, frankly. But maybe there's going to be a deal on the Strait of Hormuz. In short, Colonel, where are we? Are we just spectators watching this ball go back and forth on a tennis court? Where are we? What do you think, Colonel?
Well, I think that's very well said, Governor. We are kind of spectators, as is almost everyone else in the world, particularly in Europe. Our allies elsewhere are watching this tennis ball go back and forth, trying to figure out what's happening and, more importantly, what's going to happen next. There are a couple of ways to look at this. Typically what happens when we want to use the military instrument of power, either by itself or in conjunction with other instruments, is that the chiefs, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chiefs of each of the services, and or the combatant commanders, for example, the commander, commanding general of Central Command, and so on, they propose to use the military instrument in a certain way. They create an operations plan that starts at the end and work backwards. This is the objective. These are the phases reaching it, and these are the assets, man, materiel, time, we're going to use in order to achieve it. And typically what happens is that that's adjusted internally and presented to the president for approval, and the president says, yes, we're doing this, or no, we're not doing this. It's entirely possible that the plan was presented to bring Iran to its knees, with the caveat that it was extremely dangerous and lots of other things unintended consequences could happen. For example, the stricture around the Straits of Hormuz, reducing the flow of oil, and the perception in the oil markets that there is going to be less oil in the future when demand is right now, and the result is a spike in the price of oil. Even though there's lots of oil around, price of oil goes up, and those with the least capability of sustaining this, the rise in the price of oil, suffer the most, with no way of fixing it. And there are other consequences as well. Typically what will happen is that the chiefs will also suggest that the dangers involved are these 2 or 3 or 5 following dangers. And then they make a recommendation whether to do it or not to do it. It's entirely possible that there were issued instructions that said, well, we're doing it, come up with a way to do it. And this is the best they can do. I can tell you that there's a notion in all human endeavor, but particularly in bureaucratic organizations and those with a chain of command, whether it's business or the military, that subordinates are not only asked, should be asked, but are required to give their opinion. Then when the order is issued, unless it's immoral or illegal, you carry it out. And this is true more or less up and down the chain of command, whether it's business or in the military establishment or any other place. However, when you get to be at the top of the food chain, in the military establishment in particular, you're responsible not only for making sure that we don't do anything immoral or illegal, you're also responsible for making sure that we don't do anything stupid. And to the extent that you say, we don't want to do this because these are the adverse consequences, and it's stupid to do it, and you're issued the order to do it anyway, it means that there's an enormous weakness at the top of the chain of command, both among the military establishment on the one hand, but also among the national command authority that supervises and instructs the military authorities to do what it wants to do. This is where we find ourselves now, with a very difficult exit from an enormously unpleasant situation. Just a minute or two more to pass on something that we think about all the time. There's no doubt about the fact that the regime in Iran is a despicable one. They've caused the deaths and misery of millions of people and need to be eliminated. But the decision that we can do it by bombing Iran, by using the military instrument alone, by waiting 40 years when 40 years ago we could have done the same thing with better results, speaks to an ignorance of events both in the region and worldwide that's really jaw-dropping. It's difficult to envision what's going to happen next, but Governor, you mentioned the fact that looks like we may be using ground troops in Iran. This is extremely troublesome, sir.
Do you believe it happens?
It's entirely possible it might happen, and here's the scenario. The President of the United States is told that we're really not achieving our objective of getting the Iranians to rise up and overthrow the theocracy. It doesn't look like the Iranian army, but particularly the Revolutionary Guards, it doesn't look like they're going to rise up and change course inside Iran. We're going to make it more difficult for them. We're going to land ground troops on Kharg Island and other islands that protect the approaches to the Straits of Hormuz. And we're going to do that at least partially because the administration has so much difficulty with rising fuel prices, not just here but abroad. But there's a problem with doing that. Anytime you put troops on the ground, they have to be able to defend themselves. And of course, they might, if you're talking about the number of troops we have at our disposal, the administration is talking about the immediate Ready Force Brigade, which is in the 82nd, my old unit, 3rd Brigade of the 82nd, plus about 2,000 other troops, plus some troops that are already in the region, plus a Marine Expeditionary Unit afloat, which is en route there. You're talking about perhaps something like 17 to 18,000 troops. That may or may not include support, but maybe something shy of 20,000 troops. A very large number of troops. And they may very easily take over, with minimum casualties, take over Kharg Island and other islands in the Gulf. The trouble is that once they're there, they're not moving anywhere. If they're going to seize and hold that terrain, then they become targets for the large number of missiles and drones, which Iran has been husbanding this entire time precisely for this circumstance. So we might be able to take Kharg Island and maybe other islands and maybe other sites on the mainland of Iran, but they're going to be targets for Iranian missiles, and we are probably not going to like the result. The expectation probably among either the administration or the military establishment in the United States or both is that the Iranians won't dare bomb Kharg Island because it will eliminate their ability to produce and transship the oil that they produce. The other way to look at it, however, is that if you're the Revolutionary Guard and in Iran and you're the theocracy, you perceive this as as an event that might put you out of business altogether, and you probably won't care if you destroy your own infrastructure on Kharg Island, just as long as you kill Americans. The danger of putting Americans on the ground in Iran is exactly that. We'll lose maybe a large number of Americans, and to no good end, because at the end, the objective is to overturn the theocracy, and that's not going to happen by putting American troops on Kharg Island, Governor.
Here's the box that I don't understand, Colonel. I don't believe the president would put troops on the ground because I believe you're right. Even if you took over Kharg Island, they would send some drones and missiles, kill Americans, they're heroes. That would take this political situation to an entirely different level, and not a level that the president wants to get into a few months before the midterms. That's for sure. So let's say it's a posture to bluff, to push the Iranians into a settlement. What negotiated deal can you make with this government when you know their word is no good? So what possible? We promised, remember the old, with your fingers crossed behind your back. I promise we're not going to enrich any uranium. I promise we're not going to have any long-range missiles. Who would believe it? All this, and you're going to take a promise from the government that is notorious for lying?
Yeah, you're quite right. At the first level of analysis, they're not going to accept any of the terms that we've already offered that we find absolutely essential. Prime among them, the fact that they're not going to develop nuclear weapons. They're not going to do that. They said they're not going to do that. And you're absolutely right. Even if they said, okay, we're going to do that, they're the last people in the world you want to trust, or among the last people in the world you want to trust with any kind of deal. In addition, all the other things that the United States wants and actually needs in order to have a cessation of hostilities, it looks like neither the Iranian army nor the government, the imams, are going to accept any of that. But I think you're absolutely right. Even if they agree, they're going to do whatever the heck they want, because there's no negative payoff for them lying and doing whatever they want to do. They've done it in the past. It hasn't cost them anything. They've managed to stay in business since 1979, doing the most hideous things, not only to people outside, people they perceive to be their enemies, but also their own people. There's no reason to expect they won't continue doing that no matter what they say, Governor.
You hold this rule in the book, Colonel. Don't get in until you know you can get out. Colonel, thank you very much for being with us, Colonel Jack Jacobs. We'll take a break. Thank you, Colonel.
Thanks, sir.